duo, the duo, the duo, the duo.
Episode 70, 70, Dane. We made it to the 70s. Episode 70 of the Duo
Zach Martin
Sports and
episode.
Stuff podcast. The Zach Martin episode. Never thought I'd say that. I am your host, Deonte. I'm joined by my ace, my guy, my best man, and co-host Dane Beasley. Dane, how are you doing this evening, my guy?
Could be much better. Shout out to Team Danny McCray, Survivor season finale's on right now. My guy didn't make the cut, but
I know. I'm sorry to be dragging you out of the finale, man.
Oh no, it's all good. I prefer not to keep up with it live because it tipped me into go online and watch at the same time, and it's just distracting. So I watch it with fresh eyes in the morning. But man, great. Feels good to be here. Another episode. It's been a pretty eventful day today. Don't you think, Deonte?
Man, most definitely. We came in, you and I always collab on the notes that we for topics that we want to talk about on the podcast. And we had some topics, but we were fairly light today going into today. And then everything happened. Like literally everything happened. A little bit of a breakdown of what we're going to talk about today. And first things first, thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, watching on YouTube. We appreciate it more than you know, like we say on each and every episode.
Thanks.
And the rundown, Dane, for episode 70, man. COVID. That good old COVID, man. It's wreaking its claws back into, of course, society as we talk about the variants and things of that nature, but it's also crept its way into the world of sports, affecting both NFL, NBA, NHL, and it's affecting some big names, not just the everyday player. It's affecting some big names. So we're going to talk about what steps that the NFL is thinking about taking, the NBA, and we'll get into that. We'll revisit our NFL predictions from episode 60. It's been a while since we talked about NFL. We've been a lot of heavy on the college football lately, and so we'll kind of peek and see where we were right and wrong with our playoff picks so far. And the season's still going on. We got 4 weeks left, Dane. So I mean, some of our predictions can still come true for some teams. Possibly, we'll get into that. And then today is Wednesday, the early period for National Signing Day, Dane, and man,
got some bangers out there, boy.
Crazy stuff. And prime time. Deion. That's all we'll say for now before we get into it.
The levels.
Yeah, levels, man.
The levels.
And in the NBA, Steph Curry broke the 3-point record last night. That was a sight to see. The greatest shooter of all time, correct?
So far.
Right. I mean, right now, right?
So far, man.
You can't answer with a so far.
Yes, the hell I can, and I will. So far.
All right,
like I told y'all boys yesterday when we was in the party. The 3-point line has already been an amazing, advent to the league. But what he successfully has been doing consistently for a number of years with spreading the floor and just taking these ridiculous shots is going to inspire a generation of certified ballers.
Yeah.
So I say so far, yeah, right. So as far as we know, there's a little kid that's 7 or 8 years old. We don't know them yet. True, but I said so far. So I'm saying, like, there's a kid somewhere out there right now, and he's going to be on varsity and playing against grown men by the 7th grade because of how wet his shot is. So, and it's all going to be because of Steph Curry. Just watch what I say, Deonte. We've seen these things. So he is the greatest shooter of all time so far.
So far. What was that? I'm thinking of a show where it was like Celebrity's House. Oh, that was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Do you remember that when he was like celebrities' houses at night when he was shooting like the pictures? I don't know if you remember that episode. If you're listening, that was a funny episode. Go back and watch it. And so we will talk about Steph breaking the 3-point record. And of course, in our nerdy news segment, episode 5 of Hawkeye dropped today. Yesterday, if you're listening to this on Thursday. And man, episode 5 had it did the thing. especially with the stinger at the end, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about our Spider-Man No Way Home predictions, Dane. It is Spider-Man No Way Home week. Can you believe that we're finally here, dude? Finally here. I'm going to.
It feels like a long road coming. Feels like a long road coming, bro.
Long road. And so I will actually, Dane and I will both give our predictions on what we think will happen in the movie. I'm going to see it Thursday. Dane, you'll be seeing it on Saturday, and we'll come back and talk about that later. And then in our quick hits, we'll talk about some other things that we'll get into a little bit later. But first, Dane, like we mentioned at the top, dude, COVID is back, and
the COVID
it's raging.
It's never left.
Never left. Yes, never left. Never left. You're correct on that. And with the variant kind of ramping up the numbers again, it's kind of affecting the NFL and the NBA. And I asked you earlier today to kind of get a list for us, Dane, about the COVID list from both the NBA and the NFL. And I won't name every player on this list, but I kind of wanted to kind of get a gist of. Man, I'm scrolling like through names. It's at least, what would you say, Dane, about 60, 70 names
I wish I remember the count, the official count when I was looking at it in the spreadsheet when I was looking at the data by team. But yeah.
But some big names in the NBA now, not necessarily testing positive for COVID, but contact tracing, health and safety protocols. Mm-hmm. Some big names out in NBA right now: James Harden, LaMelo Ball, Dwight Howard. Almost the entire Chicago Bulls roster has COVID right now, and
they postponed a few games, didn't they?
Right, they just announced. I think that was this morning, right? That the Bulls' next 2 games are postponed. Sacramento Kings interim head coach Alvin Gentry tested positive for COVID. Kyle Kuzma is in protocols. Giannis is in protocols. Wes Matthews, Ja Morant in protocols. For the Lakers, Dane, Talen Horton-Tucker protocols. It's just a list of names here, man. And in the NFL
former Laker great Kyle Kuzma.
Kyle Kuzma, the Laker great, Dane says. And then the NFL, man, Odell Beckham literally just had his coming out party game with the Rams on Monday night, and he tested positive. Baker Mayfield for the Browns, and the list goes on. And so there's been kind of a shift, if you will, Dane, about how to go about this from the NFL perspective. And I grabbed this clip from Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network, and this is what he had to say about what the NFL is thinking about right now.
And the possible adjustments, Judy, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of options. Could go to extensive protocols like the league did last year with virtual meetings and masks and the entire plan basically from last December that got them through the end of the season, got them through the playoffs. Part of the other thing, Tom, is many of the players who have tested positive are fully vaccinated, asymptomatic, and what do you do with those issues? What does that mean? And that's certainly some of the discussions that are going on here to try to figure out where the league is with these protocols that were developed without a vaccine. Now there is a vaccine, and a lot of the players are asymptomatic, so what do you do with that? I think we're going to get, as Judy mentioned, some more news over the next day or so, but certainly does feel like a very, very important time for the league as far as its handling of COVID.
I saw something, Dane, a report. I think the NFL announced they're making tier 1 and tier 2 personnel, which means I think that's the players and then the coaches, people that are on the sideline. They're making them get the booster for COVID-19. But this is a tricky situation because, like you had mentioned, most of the players are asymptomatic and they're not showing symptoms, but at the same time, we know what COVID has done. And I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What does the NFL do right now in this moment?
Oh, they're going to move the goalposts.
With 4 games left.
They're going to move the goalposts.
Go ahead.
They're going to move the goalposts. All the logic that we've had this entire, season so far, the logic is going to go out the window, and we're going to start seeing some dramatic recommendations and practices for the sake of making sure none of our primetime playoff slots are messed with, tainted, undercapitalized, things like that. This is what's going to happen because what we have seen from, and this is two different leagues, but of course, football offers much more contact than basketball. But the Chicago Bulls, something like that were to happen with a team, and you're talking about 2 games, that's like what, 1 week worth of games, or about half a week worth of games, right? You simply can't do that in the NFL. Those games mean so much. One game, we see this every year. One game where a team is they're hanging by a lifeline, hanging by a piece of floss to get into the playoffs. All they need is to win one game. And we've seen time after time and time again, they get denied. Now, if you if you get in the conversation or the topic of postponing games and things like that, just to ensure that your media darlings don't miss out on playing a game, it's wrong. And it's going to be unfair. And we're going to hear about this for a very long time, regardless of what side of the fence you stand on. Postponing the games in the NFL at this particular moment, it's going to complicate things. One, you're going to piss a lot of people off, and 2, you're only going to prolong this issue because we are just entering in the winter here in Texas, of course. So this is only going to get worse. There's always a spike of flu and colds during this time of year. This is only going to get worse. Now, the best thing they could possibly do is, we've talked about this before, and we've even had some very not only popular voices, but some very knowledgeable voices come on this very podcast and say just how difficult it would be to have an NFL bubble. But they might have to do something, because at this rate, who's to say what this is going to look like next week? Because they said this is the most people added to the COVID list, the COVID reserve list in one particular, is the span of this particular week. There hasn't been as many people added in the span of like 1 month or 3 weeks or something like that. But it's only going to get worse.
The numbers right now are ridiculous. Yeah. And I see what you're saying to a point with the bubble thing, but I think for them, and I think you'll agree with me on this, like, I think they just gonna keep pushing.
We've seen them do it last year.
Right, where you're at a point where you're trying to get to the very end. I mean, we're in week 14, 15 now, and
with an additional game added on to it, by the way.
Right. It's got 4 games left with the additional week, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you're at the point where, I know in most of these situations, when we talk about the higher powers that be and what their concern is, whether you believe it's their safety or money.
Ain't no damn safety. Come on, man.
Right. And I'm
you're just a messenger. Yeah. It ain't about it's not about player safety.
Hey, Drewski.
I'm just saying. That's just me though.
But that's just me though. I think you're at a point where the NFL is like, all right, we've gotten this far. We're in week 15. Let's do what we can to get to February. That's, like you said, they're tweaking it. They're possibly, from this tweet and from that video, it says the NFL is considering a protocol tweak that would allow vaccinated asymptomatic players who test positive for the coronavirus to return to team activities sooner.
Reckless.
Now, how is that? Like, I can't picture in my mind, as much as we've seen what coronavirus can do. I mean, it doesn't affect everybody the same, but we've seen how dangerous this can be, right?
Correct.
On what now, when they sooner is, and I guess this goes back to the point of them. Now, we don't know who the percentage. Do we know the percentage of players vaccinated?
I think it's somewhere between like 87 and 95. Something. So it's a pretty high number. Now, if we're talking,
you take that into account. But you got players that aren't vaccinated. True. You got fans that, like, not all the stadiums are requiring vaccinations, and those players interact, let alone with masks. The fans. Right. No masks. And when they say sooner, that doesn't sit right in my heart. And like, when you hear that, be like, dang, how can you allow somebody to play or come back? Now, I'm not saying like the wording is so weird. That sooner thing, I can't see and
very,
fathom
very
in my
broad.
mind that they're really thinking about bringing a player. Like, does that mean they're thinking about bringing a player back while he's still testing positive if he's vaccinated,
or even loosening up the testing requirements or the testing frequency, specifically if you're asymptomatic?
I'm not a doctor, but if the numbers are going up, why would you like loosen the restrictions? Is that what?
It's jeopardizing this, Deonte. It's all
Now,
about that green. It's all
if you're
about that green
listening to
rectangle.
Right, and if you're listening to the podcast
Mhm.
and you're like, bro, you're looking at this the wrong way. They didn't mean it like this. They meant it like that. Please DM me, text me, call me if you have my number and help me understand. But the way I'm reading it, the way I'm hearing it is that players that, have vaccinated players, asymptomatic, got COVID. And we know COVID can still spread from vaccinated to unvaccinated, unvaccinated, all the different ways, correct?
Yeah, correct.
You're bringing players back sooner, quote unquote.
No Oklahoma.
Right. You're bringing players back sooner I don't see the logic. Maybe I'm missing it somewhere. But
let me tell you the logic, Deonte. This is the same league that intentionally hid statistics, groundbreaking statistics, and denied the link or connection between head trauma and CTE and this violent game of football. Who we're finding out in this present day the effects that it has on so many people, specifically people who have already either passed away or some violent situation ending their life, studying their brain and determining, this person has the same level of CTE as another professional football player. And the league is just like, you know what? It is real. There is a link to it publicly, not too long ago. So there can't be, I don't suspect this particular group of individuals to make some decisions based off of sound judgment. This is going to go back to the money. It always goes back to the money. Unfortunately, this is where we're at. We're talking about professional football. We're getting closer and closer to gambling being a super huge big part of this league. There's a team that's in Las Vegas right now. This is about the money. It's always about the money. So when you talk about them moving the goalposts in the middle of this, no, not the middle of the season, the last, 80, 75% of the season, this is not based on logic, not based on reason. This is simply based on whatever makes the dollar go. And this is what makes the dollar go. This is what makes my pockets fat. So I'm not going to disrupt that. It's never been about the safety. If that was the case, there wouldn't be fans back in the stadiums like there were last year for many teams. But here we are. So I think they're going to move forward with it. A lot of people are going to be pissed off about it. I, on the other hand, are going to be like, I can't say man. I didn't see this coming.
It's just so weird, man. Like, I just don't understand that. What you're saying is very true as far as what the NFL previously has dealt with or not dealt with as far as CTE is concerned. But you can't really, you can't really put anything past them for what they might try to do. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I really didn't follow what people were saying about it, and like if they felt the same way you and I do about the situation. I didn't, because if you go down the Twitter thread rabbit hole of
you're gonna
COVID,
come across some stuff.
Yeah, we're not gonna go into it, but if you're listening, how those conversations can get, and especially on social media. So, man, it'll be interesting to see how they decide to move forward in this situation. I just hope, what we had previously when COVID came around, that everybody does their part to be safe, whether it's getting vaccinated, whether it's wearing a mask in public places, whether it's, taking the necessary precautions to keep you and your family safe, man. So we can hopefully at some point get to some kind of normalcy, because we aren't, obviously we're not there yet, right? So back in episode 60, my guy, episode 60, we dropped our NFL preview. Kind of talked about who we thought would make the playoffs, and we even made our Super Bowl predictions. So we haven't talked about the NFL in a while, Dane. So let's see in the AFC, right?
Right.
Your playoff teams, Dane, were the Chiefs, the Browns, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Colts, and the Titans. And my AFC picks were the Bills, the Browns, the Ravens, the Titans, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and of course the Broncos. And in the NFC, Dane, you picked the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Packers, the Vikings, the Panthers, and the Washington football team. And in the NFC, I picked the Cowboys. I remember when I listened back to the episode, you picked Washington football team to do the reverse psychology, 10-4 do-rag kind of thing.
It's working out pretty well, if I may add so myself.
Yeah, my predictions were the Cowboys, Packers, Bucks, Rams, Seahawks, Niners, and Vikings, Dane.
It's trifling.
You know, I remember right after you said that, I was like, well, I'm gonna pick the Cowboys, and you got pretty upset about that. And so as we look at the playoff picture right now, bro, in the AFC, man, could you imagine? Because I don't think neither of us picked the Patriots to be sitting atop the AFC, let alone in the playoffs. So they are sitting at the number one seed right now.
I didn't know what they were. And then I don't think Cam got released from the team until a few days before the fourth preseason game, I think, or the last preseason game. Can't remember.
I think,
So I was like, it's too much going on. I'm not even going to let them make it in there. But what Belichick, of course, is doing right now is amazing.
Remarkable, man.
It's amazing, but I can't see it. That boy Jones, he's a dog. He's going to be nice. I don't know who's going to stop him in terms of winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year, aside from Jamar Chase maybe. But he's got it.
I'll add a quick note while you're talking about Mac Jones on episode 60. Let's pat ourselves on the back because we had the discussion about Alabama possibly being quarterback U. And this past weekend, Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy.
What school is that right now?
What's that?
What school is he at right now?
Alabama.
Oh. Oh, let me take a sip real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
Pinky out.
Pat yourself on the back, man. Sometimes we predict the right things here on the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family that we are good sometimes. So yeah, the Patriots, number 1 seed, Dane, the Titans, the 2 seed, Chiefs, 3, Ravens, Chargers, Colts, and Bills right now.
Chargers.
And then on the NFC side, we got the Packers on top, Tampa Bay at 2, Arizona, Cowboys, Rams, Niners, and Washington football team. So for the most part, we may have some misses here, of course, with the Patriots pick.
Yeah. Can't get them all right.
And yeah, I think you got the Titans and Colts both right. And I was really bad. I picked the Seahawks. They're not doing well right now.
Seahawks too. And you still want Russ?
And yes, I do. I still want Russ. Put him behind our O-line, bro, and put some weapons around him like we got. That defense
better than DK Metcalf and
Tyler
Lockett?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all he got over there. We got Sutton, Judy, Tim Patrick, no offense sometimes, Albert O, Melvin Gordon coming out the backfield, my boy Javonte Williams coming out the backfield.
That's probably the biggest upside on the offense is him because he's only going to get better.
I love Javonte.
The vision, the patience, the forced tackles.
The first guy is never tackling Javonte. Like when I watch the game, I'm like, first guy coming up, I know you ain't making a tackle.
He probably leads the league right now in yards after contact.
Oh yeah.
If I'm a betting man, I put about $25 on it. $25 he leads the league in.
I take that bet. I'd agree with you on that bet. Is what I'm trying to say. And then our Super Bowl picks, Dane. Do you remember what you picked for the Super Bowl?
A-Rod and Mahomes, right?
You did, and I went with
who is battling a toe flare up at the moment. So
yes,
don't know how that's going to play out.
It doesn't seem
He
to affect
balling. He
them.
balling. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen him play in the playoffs on one leg before, but eventually it caught up to him.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be affecting them right now. I picked Rams over Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and you did not make a prediction because you played it safe like a smart guy.
Yes, that's what I do. I have the ability to change my mind like 2 minutes before the game ends. Mercy Podcast. I predict because this team is up by 35 points, they're going to win the Super Bowl. Back to you. Type of deal.
Back to me. Any prediction, or excuse me, not predictions, any team that surprised you besides, I know we talked about the Patriots, but any team that's right now like in the playoff race, and maybe somebody that's like outside the bubble that could possibly be there that you didn't expect to be there?
Who did not expect to be there?
I'll say one off the top because I mean they're sitting at the 9th seed right now, and they've kind of fell out the playoff picture a little bit. But the Bengals, I know we talked about Burrow, if he'll be able to bounce back from the ACL injury. And for the most part, he's struggled a little bit with the interceptions, but Jamar Chase, we talked about him a couple of episodes ago. He's come on and probably win in the running for offensive rookie of the year. I'm surprised that they're still in the playoff picture. What the Ravens have dealt with all their injuries and everything going on over there, they continue to win games when they can. I think they dropped the last one, but that team is literally decimated at almost every spot. And, Harbaugh has those guys continue to fight. So the Ravens are still right in the thick of it. I think that's just who they are as a team, their mentality to fight. So, yeah, they definitely had that next man up mentality.
Look, for God's sake, please put some freaking weapons around Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I understand that not one, not two, not three of his running backs got taken out by injuries, but I understand putting tight ends around him because those are his targets. They always have been. But get somebody down there that can help some more. Yeah. Like he needs somebody that's going to route you up. He needs a Devontae Adams or a Stephon Diggs or an Amari Cooper. That's what he needs, a route running receiver. So I hope they put some more people around him. Anyways, yeah. I can't say if there's a particular team that surprised me by being in the playoff hunt or a team that I'm just probably stick with the Patriots, just by being there, the longevity of their coach being consistent. So I'll go with that.
I like that prediction, man. So Dane, today's Wednesday. It was the early signing period for college football, and we saw recruits flipping left and right. Bruh. We saw chaos all day on the timeline, man. What were you thinking about everything that went down today?
I was just happy for these guys. They have a lot of weight, the weight of the world on their shoulders. A lot of the times they're potentially supposed to be or going to be the family breadwinner. So it's always awesome to see these kids make these life-changing moves and commitments. So I'm happy for a lot of the guys that I don't care what team you are. I'm rooting for you, a high school athlete, and you signed for a particular team, D1, D2, D3, whatever. Shout out to you. Keep pushing, get in the books and show out, man. This is men and women. Like, do your thing. So I'm happy. I like to see everybody win. So it was good. It's always good to see the video, especially when they got the team, like the entire team behind them and like the little presser. And then it's fun. That's what I miss the most about sports in general, is the camaraderie too. So what about you, man? Anything stuck out to you?
Man, I'm gonna get right into it, man. Probably the biggest story of the day.
Oh yeah,
Deion Sanders, head coach, prime head coach of Jackson State, flipped the number one recruit in the nation from his alma mater, which is the craziest part.
Levels,
right?
The levels, like Deonte. Since ESPN started ranking high school players, I believe it's 2005 or 2006, that is the first time that not only an FCS team, but an HBCU at that flipped the number one recruit from a D1 program to come to their program. And if you have the opportunity to check out this young man, he plays both ways, a hell of a wide receiver, even better DB. He has the size of Jalen Ramsey in terms of height and athleticism, or, well, the height and athleticism, but honestly, Deion can't go wrong playing him either way, you know? And with Deion being a player that played on both sides of the football and, of course, on special teams, he just get the ball in his hands, regardless of what side of the ball he is on. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I'm excited about his journey, and more than anything, like Deion, you know, that's huge, bro. That's
his name is Travis Hunter, by the way, if you guys didn't know, and he was the number one overall prospect, cornerback. And man, I do have my reservations about it, and I am very excited, and I hope that this is a step forward, because, you know, we've talked about it before, a step forward for HBCUs.
This is true.
A step forward for, you know, maybe more big time athletes going this route. But my reservation is not the money, the NIL stuff, like a lot of people's reservations are. Mine are more so with the head coach and hoping that Deion kind of really sets his foot down in HBCU and at Jackson State, because there were rumors, and, you know, we could take it with a grain of salt, right? But there were some rumblings that he had interviewed for the TCU job after they let go of Gary Patterson. And so my thing is, because I think he had sent out a tweet a while back about, you know, being a part of the program, which we know at this day and age with coaches and their movement and everything like that, you know, a coach can say something and then he could dip the next day, right? And so my hope is that that he is in it for the long haul, because we could continue to see things like this where HBCUs become not, I won't say well known, but the top prospects going there, rather than, say, in another alternate timeline where he signs this guy and maybe a few other top prospects, and then he takes the first Power 5 job he's offered, and then those players follow Deion because, you know, they mainly signed to this HBCU, of course, for the experience, hopefully, and for you know, what they want for their life. But we know a lot of the times the prospect signs for the coach, and we've seen that with the Lincoln Rileys, you know. And I see you ready to talk, but I hope that in this instance that this is a start of what we want to see in the future.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it just kind of goes back to the homage. Excuse me. When you see these big recruits, I mean, we haven't seen this before. We have not seen this happen like this before. But back in the day, before a lot of the black players were allowed to go to, you know, public universities because they were restricted and outlawed from going to them, sometimes a lot of these guys, they made their come up in the HBCUs.
History lesson. Let's go.
Yeah. So a lot of the times you see now, you know, a lot of the athletes don't get the opportunity, or the exposure is going to be there now. More than anything, is going to be there now. But we haven't. It's been a pretty long time since we've seen a high polarizing player from an HBCU not only make it to the league, but make a name for itself. But that was the standard back in the day, and it's not that far removed from that. You know, 40, 50 years ago. So this is not only huge for this young man, but he's going to, once they see if they're, you know, I'm assuming there's some money on the line. There's some good NIL opportunities for him.
And there's been a lot of rumors floating around about Barstool.
In the couple of millions. The couple of millions. So
and a thing about Barstool, man, is as much as I despise Barstool, I hope I'm so conflicted on Deion's relationship with that whole thing that just bothers me so much. And
I think it might be a means to an end for him. I'm not speaking for Deion, but Deion's one thing about Deion, he's very smart with his money. Like, he's very wise in terms of how he earns his money and how he spends it. So I think this might be a situation. I don't know Deion personally, but it just might be one of those situations where he knows what the exposure that Barstool has to offer him, and of course there's a bag there for him. So, and the opportunities not only that brings him, but he knows what it's like to come into life changing money. So with him, he has a huge heart. Him knowing what he knows now, the activities and people that he has that come speak to his players, he's looking out for them. So I have no doubt in my mind that he might just be using them as a means to an end. So I don't know, but
yeah,
this is going to cause more players to gravitate to that program. I will say that.
Yeah.
And his son is damn good. Like the youngest one, it's like Shador, I think his name is. Shador. Is it Shador? And the Shador, like, he and his other, I forgot the name of the other kid. I think he's at was he in South Carolina? I can't remember. I think he was in South Carolina, but he had another kid, and they had, a bunch of D1 offers. So they, those his kids stepping out on what they believe in too, and obviously they believe in their father / their coach. So I think this is going to be the first stone of many. It's going rolling down.
Yeah. So currently, Dane, actually earlier this afternoon, everybody was not happy about. Everybody had an opinion, of course, about this because this is
about this 18-year-old's decision and commitment.
Yeah, and so one of the main ones that gravitated to my eyes was Doug Gottlieb. And of course, Doug had something to say. He said, "Twitter celebrating a kid making an obvious mistake is hilarious."
Tell me this, Deonte.
And go ahead.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yep.
You possibly walking into a couple of $1 million at the age of 18. You think that's a mistake, Deonte? Legally, legit, couple of $1 million at the age of 18 while you're in high school. Is that a mistake, Deonte?
I don't think it's a mistake.
Okay. Go ahead, man. Finish what you was going to say. I just had it, it's a question on my mind. I wasn't sure, but I mean.
Oh, yeah. Doug being Doug. And then, Roland Martin, the host. Yeah, he replied, quote tweeted and said, "Y'all see the sheer arrogance of folks like Gottlieb. So he thinks it's a mistake that Travis Hunter's headed to an HBCU. Care to explain why going to an 11-1 team and not 5-7 FSU football is a mistake?" And he said HBCU football doesn't have close to the same support athletically, academically, medically, and they play an inferior schedule with inferior teammates. In addition to football ends, any person would prefer to be at Georgia, Florida State, Texas A&M alone for help in the workforce.
He might have just made the decisions for a lot of these athletes that are teetering that fence. He might have made it just that much more easier, just by him being a dumbass.
Doug has some weird takes, man.
Yeah, don't be like Doug, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't be like Doug, man. Doug.
Unless you like, diarrhea at the mouth, because that's exactly what it is. Every time he opens his mouth or starts typing something. But don't be like Doug, ladies and gentlemen.
Speaking of Doug, man, he had an interesting take on the 3-point all-time leader in 3-point shots, Steph Curry.
The greatest shooter of all time so far.
Right. So far, right? You remember what he said about Steph Curry?
Was this the pre-draft?
Yeah.
The pre-draft not roasting, but the old takes exposed in Ultra 4K.
Super cold takes. All right, for the listeners and viewers, let's see what this guy had to say back then, man.
But especially last year's performance in the NCAA tournament. But I think, Hannah, the bigger question is, where does he go? I mean, you have Brandon Jennings, who frankly has far more talent and upside, not as refined as Steph Curry as a shooter. But he's been playing a year overseas in Italy, playing sparingly, but improving his game. You have guys like Jeff Teague, Johnny Flynn, Ty Lawson, who we expect to declare for the draft today. Even Drew Holiday at UCLA are seen as guys with more upside. And then you have Steph, who's a spectacular shooter, but not a true point. He's going to measure out at just over 6'1", not at 6'3" that he's listed at. And there's just this sense that he's not the big-time athlete, although he is a big shot maker and a big-time a playmaker in terms of giving the ball and he can find a way to get in the basket. Look, if he wants to be a pro, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. But I think right now his name value is carrying him a little bit more than the actual efficiency on the basketball floor. So it's going to be interesting to see where he pans out.
That's
all I have to say about
to be so loud and so wrong. That sucks.
Yeah.
And for the record, if you see me arrogantly online or on the interwebs saying this player's going to be this and this guy's going to be this, and just put me this out, like, hey man, remember that time we listened to Doug on the airwaves and he sounded like an idiot, half dumbass? Don't be like that. Just tell me. But he couldn't have been more wrong, unfortunately. Now, all those guys, majority of those guys have had some success in the NBA, but the historic run that Steph is on, he has a number of Hall of Fame level years left. There's plenty of meat on the bone for him, so he's got even more time to distance himself, from any other 5-year-old that's running around here right now that might be shooting and replicating his game. So when you're wrong, you're wrong, man.
When you're wrong, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I see you anymore?
Uh-oh.
Can you see me moving?
Yeah, I see you. I'm frozen?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Okay, you good now. Well, with that, Dane, we'll go to...
What's that sound?
Nerdy news segment.
Shout out to Keith.
Hawkeye episode 5 dropped today, Wednesday. One more episode left until the finale, man. And episode 5 was a doozy, man. Episode 5 was a doozy. It starts with a flashback back to the year 2018. And one thing, Dane, that I like so much about the MCU and Marvel is how they really, really dive into the connectivity of everything. Like, you have to, for you to be able to follow the story, you need to know what happened here, what happened there. Like, they're good at connecting things. And so beginning of episode 5 sees, because we ended episode 4 by seeing Yelena on the rooftop with Hawkeye, Clint, and Kate Bishop. So episode 5 starts out with Yelena in her Black Widow attire going to save, quote unquote, the other Black Widows from under mind control, which we saw at the end of, or not even the end, but that was main storyline of Black Widow, the movie. And so she's in the process of freeing this Black Widow from mind control. And the Black Widow that they went to go see, she was already, she wasn't under the control. And so Yelena goes to the restroom, and this part was crazy. She dusted away. And what's interesting about this dust from Thanos' snap, this is like the first time we saw the coming back part, right? That quick, like you see her leaving and coming back. I don't think they've showed that before in the MCU.
There was no time lapse to it. It was just because she, of course, everybody that was stamped away, they believe it was just a few moments. In actuality, it's 2 years.
5, yeah. So in her time, it was 5 seconds. She literally comes back. The whole bathroom is redecorated, and she finds out it's been 5 years. And she this is how we kind of piece together that she didn't know about her sister, Natasha Romanoff. And so at the end of Black Widow, the movie, it that post-credit scene with her and Val kind of makes more sense. I guess her visiting her grave and kind of figure out what happened. And so this episode saw that Clint felt like he was being closed in on by Echo, who was getting closer to the truth. Echo finds out through Clint that her dad was set up. That her dad was a hit by the main guy, the uncle, who we'll get to in a second. And she's not very happy about it. Clint tells her the truth, and they go on to they fight a little bit, and Clint's up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main part of the episode, Dane, I know I'm skipping around a few parts, but the main part of the episode, Kate basically finds out her mom was the one that got hired to the one that hired Yelena to kill Clint. And what do you know? The guy that she is working with in the text message is none other than Vincent D'Onofrio from the Netflix series Daredevil. It is Kingpin. Kingpin is back, should I say, for the first time in the MCU, but he's back on the screen, man. And your reaction when you saw Kingpin on the screen, because we had talked about it before, but to actually see it, man, was crazy.
Man, I was amazed because I finished watching it this early this morning when I got to work before anybody got there, and I just was.
Man, it's not.
It was.
Yeah.
It was cool because there's hope. Seeing him gave me hope, because D'Onofrio is an amazing, phenomenal actor. Him bringing another layer that we haven't seen from this character, and so many different iterations. You have the original cartoon. You have the Affleck Daredevil. Then you have the Spider-Verse, version, and then we have the Netflix version of the Kingpin. And he could carry a movie having 90 to 95% of the screen time with just the backstory and the depth that he brought, with not only his talent but just the backstory. And it just offers us an opportunity to see the life through the lens of Wilson Fisk, Willie Fisk. So I was excited, man, because of course it opens the opportunity for other characters that we love so dear to our hearts so much. For me, at least, Daredevil and Punisher, those are only other two I care about coming from the Netflix Marvel universe. But
right.
Seeing him on the screen again, and then seeing his name in the post or in the credits, was like them giving him his rose, like acknowledging, like, "Hey, bro, you killed that shit when you was on Netflix. Just let's run this back real quick and let's do this again." So, and I know you asked me one question, but all this is, not being able to talk about this with anybody all day, and then finally getting to talk about it. Like, the thing about it that people just are going to have to wrap their mind around is this isn't some galactic cosmic threat. This is the embodiment of corruption. And that's far more dangerous than anybody that's capable of harnessing world destroying, galaxy, life form destroying in the palm of their hand.
You said the perfect thing. You said the perfect thing, right? Because we've seen Clint in this show talk about the big guy. And like, he is legit, like, scared. I don't want this guy to get involved. Right. Who did Clint fight in the end game? Who did Clint?
The mad Titan himself.
The biggest guy in the galaxy, right? And he's scared of.
He got the biggest body count. He got the biggest body count in
right
comic book universe.
Like, when you think about that, like, Clint has been worried about Kingpin for 5 episodes, and we watched him fight Thanos. Right? That alone right there should tell you how big of a threat, how menacing, how scary this dude is, right? And we only saw him on a tiny little text message. Wait till episode 6. This finale, I think this finale is gonna be crazy.
Somebody gonna get their ass whooped. Unfortunately,
when he comes on the screen, and I hope, and this is another part. Like, I hope that we get that menacing, that like scary, same Kingpin that we got in Netflix, because
Untouchable.
Netflix, we had Netflix. It was rated R,
Gory.
right? Wasn't
It
the
was
show
gory.
R? Right.
Bones breaking,
and so
people's heads getting smushed in by dumbbells and plates, like
right. And so I don't know if we'll get that to a degree on Disney Plus.
They're gonna have to get creative,
right? Maybe it might be some, I don't know, off-screen kind of beatdowns. I don't know, but there has to be a presence to where you see this guy and you know that he means business. You know what I'm saying? Because Clint is, has said things about this dude since damn near episode 1. Laura, his wife, like, they don't want to be part of Kingpin. Mm-hmm. That should tell you all you need to know about who this character is and why he is so important, not only to this show, but in the MCU going forward, because you're going to have these Daredevil shows eventually, I'm assuming. I think Echo's getting her own show, but you're going to have these like street level heroes that we had on the Netflix side with, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. And Kingpin is probably going to be in that realm of the big bad in that realm, and not, the actual crazy super human villain, I'm talking about, that we've seen thus far in the MCU. But yeah, man, it was great to see, even though it was a glimpse. I know I'm assuming we'll get more in the finale. But so far Hawkeye it's been a very dope series. I've grown to like, I didn't like Kate Bishop as far as, I thought she's maybe a little too jokey-ish, like cracking jokes all the time.
Part of her character, man.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not really familiar with her character, but she's come along well with everything going on, and I'm excited because, of course, this is going to be a character for the future in the MCU. The Young Avengers, we assume, is coming at some point, and so she'll be one of those leaders of that. But man, episode 5 was definitely one that got me hyped for the finale.
Facts. Same here. Same.
Big facts. And then Dane, of course, this week, like we mentioned at the top of the podcast, it is finally here, man. Spiderweb. Spiderman No Way Home is here. Please avoid spoilers if you are on social media, because they're everywhere. Mute if you got to mute. Don't even get on social media if you
don't even take a chance.
Yeah, don't even take a chance on it. Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out this week. I'll be seeing it today as you're listening to this podcast. Dane will see it this weekend. We'll talk about it when we come back. Mm-hmm. But I'll just say this, Dane. How are we going to do this? Just give me one prediction out of the movie about something that you think is going to happen. Take your time.
Venom somewhere. Mention, fight, reference. That's one I would like to see.
I'll ask you the big question.
What's up?
Will we see Toby and Andrew?
I hope so.
Oh,
now, whether they'll be real or projections or figments of his imagination, that's another thing. But I think it would be homage and giving them their flowers if they are in the film. If they are not in the film, I will not be disappointed, because I understand. But if they are there, it's going to be
in-game level of excitement in the theater, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want to believe it, bro, but dang, that would be crazy.
It'll be like the synonymous with screams and hollers with Thor touching down in Wakanda, or Steve, coming out of the shadows,
or him coming through the portals.
That wasn't loud in the grand scale of things. Like for me, at least, my experience in both times I went to in the theater, Thor touching down in Wakanda, that was like the huge moment, and you hear the score in the background. Yeah, so
bring me Thanos.
Yeah. So that right there, I think that'd probably be an equivalent. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the other side of the predictions, man. I think it's gonna be a big death in this movie. Now I'm trying to predict who that's gonna be.
It's a bold statement you got there, buddy.
Yeah, man. I don't know, bro. I think with Spider-Man, don't you think he's gotten away? Not him personally, but like in these movies,
gotten
it
off
seems like
too easy.
Like he hasn't really sacrificed.
I mean, he's lost his uncle. Like we've seen that 3 times, 3 separate occasions, bro.
Not with this one.
And he lost Tony Stark. Like
he did lose Tony, but everybody lost Tony. Like a Tony was personal to him. I mean, like he had a personal relationship with Tony.
They are used to losing people. They have been deep in the battle as veterans. The Avengers, like everybody. You talking about everybody that lost Tony? Like,
before Tony. Big.
They have been heroes. They have lost people. Every single last one of them.
No,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They have lost colleagues along the way, even if it was temporary. It's happened.
Even if it was Joe and security.
Sure. But this is at the end of the day, this is a teenager we're talking about here. These are not grown adults. This is a teenager, and him losing not only an idol but someone that he looked up to, worshipped the ground that he walked on, a mentor.
He's gonna lose more, man. He has to lose more.
According to you,
it's gonna be a death close to him. Now, whether that's Ned, Aunt May, MJ, I don't know. I just think somebody's gonna die.
Okay,
is that too harsh?
Dying and staying dead, or dying and then being revived within the last 5 minutes of the movie?
Oh, I'm talking Tony Stark dead. Okay. For now, like we think Tony Stark is dead. Okay. That's what I think. I don't know, man. Anyway, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Go see it. I might see it twice this weekend, but we'll see, depending on how it goes the first time.
Eli Ricks transferring to Alabama.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. LSU defensive back was a freshman All-American in 2020. Eli Ricks transferring to Bama.
Wow.
Breaking news. You didn't hear it here first because the episode's not going to be available until
I know, right? By the time you hear it.
Just know.
We gotta start going live with the pod. We gotta go live with it. Eli Ricks transfers from LSU to Alabama. Wow. SEC. Straight up.
SEC.
Straight up. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I think you're about to segue into another segment of the nerdy news. So
yes, I was. The Sonic the Hedgehog 2 trailer dropped this week, man, and I wasn't seeing a lot of people talking about it, and I'm kind of upset about that because for one, I enjoyed the first movie, and two, that trailer was hidden, bro, with the Knuckles appearance as well as Tails, but the Knuckles one was probably the most hyped up part with Idris Elba voicing Knuckles, and this looks like it's gonna be a dope adventure. Yeah, man. What you think about the trailer, bro?
I was glad that they brought Natasha Rothwell Kelly from Insecure. I seen her character in the trailer again. It was kind of dope because of just the element of how the range that she has and the comedic timing that she has. I thought it was kind of dope that they brought her back with her being such a super secondary character. But Jim Carrey body in it, like,
of course.
I
can't see any other person playing that role.
No, at all. But he bodied the few seconds that we seen him in the trailer, and then of course just Knuckles being as menacing as he was amazing. So if Knuckles is that menacing, I can't wait until we get an introduction of Shadow. Of course, for those who don't know, Shadow's essentially he's the inverse of Sonic, bioengineered hedgehog similar to Sonic. So,
Yep.
So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see how the display of his speed, how that's going to take place again, and how they're going to. Yeah, I'm excited.
It's going to be a dope movie, man. I think. What, April? I think it comes out in April. I feel like the first one just came out, and now it's coming out in April.
Printing that money, boy.
Yeah,
after they got bullied into changing up Sonic in the first one, it's like, yeah, we got to hit now.
And, yeah, facts. And it turned out to be a great decision, man. Mm-hmm. Before we get out of here, Dane, we got a new segment called Quick Hits. Just quick little stories that we did not get to kind of go in depth about earlier in the podcast. And the first one, man, Las Vegas awarded the Super Bowl 58, Las Vegas in 2024. I think it was only a matter of time before this happened, right?
Yeah, of course, unfortunately.
Vegas, gambling, money, Super Bowl. It all adds up. So Vegas is going to host Super Bowl 58 in 2024. And then, like we mentioned last night, on Tuesday night, Steph Curry became what Dane says the greatest shooter of all time for now. He drained his 2,974 three-pointer in the first quarter against the Knicks. They stopped the game and acknowledged him. He even sent, I think he sent Draymond Green, Iguodala, and Clay rollies because they helped assist some of them. And I think KD had a tweet that came out and said, "Send me my rollie" or something like that.
Of course, this ashy.
Of course,
come out and say it.
Yeah. Dane, and then you brought up a story that dropped in was it ESPN article about my beloved Mavericks, man. What was they talking about?
In your own backyard. Basically, just it spoke to the depths in which Rick Carlisle went to being a complete doo-doo head to that organization. And the article is titled, Luka Doncic and Rick Carlisle, the dissolution of their relationship. What comes next to or for the Dallas Mavericks? So, two things. Not only did he chase away one of Luka's best friends, but it ended up fracturing the locker room. And we're talking about, Dennis Smith Jr. The Mavericks drafted him before they drafted, Luka. And of course, obviously, he was still a young player, still developing. But the article details that Carlisle had already made up his mind less than halfway through his rookie season that he was over the Dennis Smith Jr. Experiment. Of course, fast forward to drafting Luka or acquiring Luka Doncic, and the two connected like crazy. Now, of course, they're both ball at the time. Both of them were ball dominant players, and it's kind of hard for two players like that to coexist. But they made it work because, and I say made it work lightly because there wasn't much success attributed to both of them that particular season. But you can obviously tell that they were, one is a budding a budding all-star, and the other one could be a budding role player, which all teams need good role players. But for whatever reason, amazing coach, maybe a horrible human being, but Rick did not like that. And to quote exactly what some of the players said, or some of the unnamed players that were mentioned in the article, it wasn't the fact that Luka hated Rick. It was Luka hated how Rick treated other people. And Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka were best of friends, even, had their girlfriends, hanging out and, taking selfies and stuff. On the court, they weren't allowed the opportunity to develop. And that type of thing, chemistry doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Your greatest duos in the league, hell, Klay Thompson and Steph, that did not happen overnight. But I think given them enough time, they could have developed into something, but the Dallas Mavericks fan base was robbed of any of that. So read the article on ESPN. It's pretty legit. Dennis Smith Jr. spoke about it. He retweeted it and commented on it. And he's like, that's not even half of the hell that was going on that Rick put him through by, being ugly. So
fast forward a few years later, and the Mavericks is still a mess. So there you go. But Dane, appreciate that, add in there, man. And then before we close, we'd be remiss if we did not mention the passing of former Broncos receiver Demaryius Thomas, man. This one was tough, bro. We talked about it over text. Demaryius Thomas, passed away at the age of 33. Turned 34 on Christmas, and he had he retired from the league in 2018, but in 2019 he got in a car accident, and from what the reports are saying, he was still dealing with some medical issues. And if you want to kind of find out more about it, you could look it up yourself. And so, kind of got, from what they're saying, got the best of him, and yeah, that was tough on Thursday to hear that news, and to be 33, Dane, you and I are 30, and that's just like to see that, man. And for a guy especially that every time you saw him was a smile on his face, and we haven't met him in person, but you from what everyone else that was close to him, and you could see it on his face, you could hear the stories about what kind of guy he was, and you have all that as him as a person, and then the guy on the field, probably the greatest Bronco receiver, Denver's ever had. And then
he had 4 or 5 Hall of Fame level years in the league.
Yeah. I think he's a five-time Pro Bowler too.
Yeah,
so that crazy catch in overtime against Pittsburgh in the wild card game was probably the top moment of my life, besides the Super Bowl win, as a Bronco fan.
So quick. It was the first play overtime, right?
Yeah.
It was like,
that's before they even had the overtime rules.
Oh my gosh.
Which now still would have been game over, but man, rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas. Prayers to his family, his friends, his loved ones. A lot of players around the league, tweeted about it. That's how somebody has an impact like that, bro.
Yeah.
When when everybody talks about how great of a person you were, and especially like the Bronco players that were around him and stuff, and they had the 88 decals. I think Vaughn, he's with the Rams now, but he wore an 88 decal on his head, on his helmet for the Rams game on Monday night. But just goes to show what kind of a guy he was, and definitely will be missed. Definitely. Rest in peace,
easy, big dog. Rest easy, man.
Demaryius Thomas. And then from the world of high school football, Dane, Dave Campbell passed away at the age of 96.
Titan right there, man.
Big time Titan. Dave Campbell founded, of course, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine in 1960. Over the years, his magazine became known as a Bible for followers of Texas high school football, chronicling schools and players across the state. Yeah, every year, man, you wait for the Dave Campbell magazine. You scroll to see where they got your high school pick. I know I used to do it. I'm like, hey, man, do they got me listed? As a player to watch. You know what I'm saying? So, just like you said, a titan of high school football. And I've never met him in person, but similar to the Demaryius Thomas thing, where people attribute to how he was as a person, a kind gentleman that always was looking out for people in their best interests. And of course, with something like this magazine, man, like this will forever be stapled in
legacy,
sports culture.
Facts.
And it's not just a Texas thing, because he was so big, man. ESPN, I got an ESPN alert when he passed away. So his
impact alone on high school, not even high school football, but just recruiting in general, and writing, sports journalism is huge. So we appreciate all of that and everything that he stand for and stood for, and rest easy to him as well, man. Especially a Texas legend. I'm not even going to reduce him to high school, but a Texas legend at that.
Texas legend, Dave Campbell. Rest easy, man. And episode 70 is in the books. Dane and I want to wish you and yours a happy holiday. This will be our last episode of 2021. We're going to spend some time with some fam, relax, rest, and come back strong for 2022. So we just want to had to get one last pause in.
I kid. It's a joke.
Of course, you had to get that one off. Pause.
You know what I remember about last day? Y'all remember about Christmas time? The song is stuck in my head. The Feliz Navidad that Miss Nieves used to make us listen to in Spanish class.
Yes.
Feliz Navidad. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Every time Christmas comes, I think about this song. But shout out to Miss Nieves, man.
Miss Nieves, wherever you are listening to this podcast.
This guy.
But yeah, appreciate each and every one of you that have tuned in to listen to us in 2021. We'll be back 2022 stronger than ever. Stronger than ever. Stronger than ever. I made it sound like a decree, right?
Yeah. Like we just lost a local election or something like that.
I know. Oh, man. We're going to get up out of here, man. Episode 70 of the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. We are.
The duo. The duo. The duo. The duo. The duo. The duo.